very much, sir.
Boy, we're going old school today, right?
Yeah, where do we start on this thing? Because, I mean, it's something that nobody even heard about, CRT, critical race theory. Yeah, we heard some things as far as equity and all the key words of these little, backroom words for critical race theory over the years, but they are full-blown on this right now. And you had a great article on this when one of the things that you said is the theory critical race theorist will bring to the classroom is that slavery is America's original sin, and no amount of holy water can cleanse the stain. So if that's the case, we're doomed.
Yeah, and that is the problem. And I mean, this stems back. Critical race theory is really nothing new. It's new to us now because we're finally seeing that it's there. But it has been around for quite some time. It's a product of critical theory, which all goes back to a cultural Marxism, which basically said this. Look, there was an Italian communist by the name of Antonio Gramsci, and he went and saw the Soviet Union when, a few years after Lenin, and he's like, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work because the people aren't adopting socialism and communism because they want to. They're adopting it because they're scared, and they feel like they have to. And the one thing he noted was the thing that was preventing communism from taking root was Christianity and Christian values. And until you got rid of the church was the shield. And if you look at it, Paul, over the last, probably from the 1960s to here, what has been the number one goal of many folks on the progressive side of the aisle? They have gotten and weakened the role of the church in society. Yeah. And that's not accidental. It's on purpose. And this has given us what we now call critical theory, critical race theory, I'm sorry. Critical theory was that the world is basically comprised of people who are rich and people who are poor, and the rich oppress the poor. What critical race theory does, it just takes out wealth and puts in race and says people are oppressed by race. And that's a very sad thing, Paul, to think that, okay, just because you're white, you're automatically the oppressor, and just because you're a person of color, you're automatically the oppressed. That sends a really sick, twisted message.
I think it's the same message, and we talk about this, Joe, over and over. It's almost like saying no matter where you go at the schools or any other place, there would be, like handicap parking places, there would be parking places for handicapped blacks because you're black. And you get to park here, and that's fine because of what happened, hundreds of years ago, and also through the civil rights period. Then it's a kind of affirmative action where, our forefathers did this horrendous thing called slavery, which nobody denies. Yeah. But where does that get you when you come into a school system? And we're saying automatically that you're disadvantaged. You have to have special things to help you because physically, mentally, you're not going to be up to the challenge.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. This has nothing to do with teaching about slavery in the United States. So I'm going to tell you something, Paul. That is being taught. This has nothing to do about Columbus just being the guy that sails the ocean blue. It is taught. All of this stuff is being taught. Kids are getting the full picture in the classroom. This just goes a step further because it does exactly what you just said. It makes people say, hey, no, we're not just talking about slavery. We're going to talk about race. And how that goes out is that because you are this color or because you do this, this is what your lot in life is going to be. And I said, because really, if you want to talk about it, Paul, the whole slave trade, the African slave trade, was not started by the Europeans. It was started by the Arabs who had spread into that area. And because a Muslim could not have a Muslim as another slave, they were using the African slave trade to help deal with slavery in the Middle East. That's where this all originated. It's the Portuguese. They just followed what the Arabs were doing. I will say this, though. Yes, the United States, yes, the West engaged in slavery, but the West was the first civilization to actively, thanks to the British, begin to outlaw slavery. No other civilization in the world did that. It was the West. But you won't see that or talk about that in critical race theory.
I wonder, because a lot of these people are saying it's America. America has always been bad. We need to tear it down and start over because of our oppression. Tell me what country on the face of the earth has not fought battles won, and the victory goes the fruits of that go to the victor. I mean, over the years, how much freedom have we imparted upon the rest of the world?
And that's the thing, I was reading over the weekend that Macy Gray person. I don't know her that much, don't really listen to her, but I saw her op-ed where she said she wants to change the flag. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how ignorant is that? Do you know how many people of different colors, of different different faiths, have fought under that flag because they know that while we are not perfect, we are the best chance at freedom and equality? And that's why we're dealing with this, Paul, because they don't know, that side doesn't want freedom and equality. They want that equity, which you mentioned at the very beginning. And equity is very different than equality. And, I hear it talked about all the time. If you want to sound cool, if you want to sound kind of chic, you're going to say, hey, look, I believe in equity. We need to have an equitable society. And I ask people, well, what do you mean by that? Well, what is equity? And 9 times out of 10, I get different definitions. If people really want to know what equity is, it's equality of outcome. And when you have equality of outcome, that means you do not succeed and you do not fail. You are all the same. And that diminishes the individual spirit, that rugged individualism that made this country great. And I think that is what you've hit the nail on the head. This really has nothing to do about making this country better or trying to improve this country or trying to correct some wrongs. That's not what critical race theory is. That's not what this discussion is about. This is about finding a way to tear this country down so they can replace it with really what they want, which is an America that we would not recognize, that our forefathers